Yeah. Okay. So please bring your attention to the body, your posture. Upright is good, since it denotes a kind of healthy self-confidence, which we need actually. Especially, you might say, in this Mahayana tradition, because we are being, it's being suggested to us that we not only work for, our own liberation or nirvana, but also work for the liberation of others out of a sense of genuine deep empathy and love and compassion for other sentient beings. So for that, we need a lot of healthy self-confidence. I said healthy, not arrogance, not ego, but we have to be confident that we can do something. And as we know, one of the main problems nowadays amongst all age groups is a sense of despondency, a sense of boredom, a sense of depression, even desperation, you might say, a quiet desperation, which is similar, which was even talked about in the middle of the 19th century by the great American writer Henry David Thoreau. He spoke of the quiet desperation of those times. So I think there are many more causes in some way for people to be upset nowadays. So we need this healthy self-confidence based on intelligent critical thinking, investigation of the teachings, and so forth. So the upright posture suggests all that. The upright posture means also that the front of our body will be naturally open and exposed. So that also has a very profound meaning, we might say. When we are self-defensive or don't want to interact with others, our bodily posture is often, guarded and you could say enclosed. It is kind of wrapped up in itself, or we simply turn away. But here the front of the body is completely exposed, it is open, willing to, in other words, connect and relate with other people. It's so important. Willing to be transparent and genuine and relate with others. Communicate with them in a heartfelt way, not a devious, clever political way, but we're willing to open our heart to others, in other words. Because that's the only way to really communicate with and help others. Intellectually, mentally, of course, but in a heartfelt way that really can benefit much more. So chest, heart region is exposed. So just ponder the meaning of that in an intuitive way, not just the words, but the meaning of the posture. Which helps us to generate good motivation, open and a very human, wholesome motivation. And then, because we're also, of course, making friends with ourselves in the practice, in other words, coming to understand our own minds, the workings of our mind, so that we can work with the, you might say, the projector, the projecting mechanism, our mind, which is what is actually the source, the main source of our happiness or our sorrow, basically stems from mind and its perceptions, its ignorance or freedom from ignorance. So therefore, this posture, the stillness, the relaxation, and the attentiveness that we generate, that's an essential part of working with ourselves and our minds. Without those three qualities, it's very, very difficult. Impossible, actually. How can we do it without being, for at least some time, still in our body, which is so connected with our mind right now? How can we do it without being relaxed? If we're uptight, anxious, restless, then we also cannot properly investigate. And if we are not attentive, vigilant, then of course the whole thing is a joke. Our mind is constantly then jumping around and we are not doing anything about it. That's not going to work either, is it? So we need stillness, relaxation, and attentiveness. We need to balance them, especially the attentiveness and the relaxation, the relaxed, open, spacious quality. The point being, if we try too hard or make such a big deal out of things, then that also doesn't work. It becomes counterproductive, can make us tired, rigid, opinionated, too full of ourselves. So there needs to be a kind of a relaxed quality, what some teachers have even called kind of a sense of humor, which doesn't mean jokes, but it means a kind of a, humorous quality, not taking things so seriously all the time. Again, work with the meaning that you derive from these words. To help us, we have the breath. So please bring the attention in this relaxed, spacious way to the breath. As it enters the body through the nostrils, or the rising and falling of the abdomen as you breathe in and out. And let there be a sense of letting go with the out breath. when avalanches of thoughts or whatever come, or just singular thoughts, recognize and gently let go. Don't get involved in a whole bunch of associations or stories. Let go. Back to the breath. Remember the relaxation aspect. Don't try too hard. But also, of course, we shouldn't be too loose either. Okay. So welcome everybody who come recently. So we're looking still at chapter 1 at various verses. We're not going through in a traditional way, verse by verse, although there's tremendous benefit also in doing that. And if you ever get a chance to attend a course, especially in person, with some of the great teachers that are around, then verse by verse exposition is wonderful. There also, of course, there will be teachings online already on YouTube probably, and certainly books are there. I'm working a little bit from this book, Pema Chodron's book, Becoming Bodhisattvas. It's a very useful book. Yesterday we looked a little bit at verse 25 from chapter 1. That this mind is such an amazing state of mind, this bodhichitta, this compassionate mind. We don't even think about it for our own sake, let alone for others. This great mind of great goodness, compassion. It's very precious. It's so rare. When it arises, it's extraordinary, an extraordinary event. Because, as we said, we've been suffering from self-centeredness since beginningless time. There hasn't been a time when we were not, consumed basically by self-centeredness. And up to now, that has not delivered us into a state of lasting happiness. It has only brought misery upon misery, frustration upon frustration, the dashing of our hopes again and again, the seeing our expectations exploded, these expectations we had for ourselves, largely for our own desires to be fulfilled. Again and again, we have seen them dashed to pieces, and that's been very painful for us, again and again and again. So Shantideva is saying, when we generate this mind of bodhichitta, all of that comes to an end. All of that self-seeking, all of the misery, the despair, the frustration that comes from wanting to take care mainly of oneself, of this I, with its me and mine all the time. When that comes to an end, then there is true happiness, true freedom. So this mind is truly wondrous. There's nothing to compare with it. All worldly achievements are like garbage, or as my teacher might say, like caca, compared to this mind. And as Pema Chodron says, there's nobody who is not able to generate this mind. We all have the potential to generate this kind of mind. So therefore, we should give it a go, It's not easy, yes, but it's possible. So therefore, we should try. Verse 26, I'll take the translation from Bachelor, since that's what I think you have been given. How can I fathom the depths of the goodness of this jewel of the mind, the panacea that relieves the world of pain and is the source of all its joy? Yeah, how can I measure such a thing? What can I measure it against? What is comparable with this? What could be comparable with something that frees us from self-centeredness? We would think as remarkable a kind of medicine which could free us from all worldly bodily ailments, right? But how about a mental medicine that frees us from all suffering, forever? And not only that, but which helps us to bring about the happiness and joy of others. What could be more extraordinary than that? So we can't fathom, we cannot measure the goodness of this bodhichitta mind. It is immeasurable. It is extraordinary. Were it to be developed in us, it would truly be a wondrous thing. Yeah. Then in the next verse, if the simple thought to be of help to others exceeds in worth the worship of the Buddhas, then what need is there to speak of actual deeds that brings about the benefit of beings? You see, it's said in the teachings that just benevolent intention, like bodhicitta, is more beneficial, more virtuous or whatever than making offerings to the Buddhas, worship of the Buddhas. You know, we, of course, when we go to a temple, a vihar, we bow down in front of the Buddha, right? We bow down before the statues, before the tankas, which is great, which is wonderful, which has tremendous karmic benefit. But Shantideva is saying that this attitude of bodhicitta exceeds in wholesomeness, in virtue, worship of the Buddhas. You know, we often neglect people, right? We totally neglect people, let alone animals, insects, or the mosquitoes buzzing around our ears and arms. You know, we kind of hate them sometimes. We kill them even. But actually, working for their benefit, all these beings, from humans to mosquitoes and smaller, that exceeds, helping them exceeds, is more virtuous than just worshipping the Buddhas. Shantideva says. He says, what need to mention then actually doing something about it, not just the intention to benefit others. He's saying that is amazing. Even just the intention, the aspiration to benefit others exceeds veneration of the Buddhas. But how about if we actually, you know, actually got up off our cushions and started benefiting other people sincerely? He's saying, you know, striving to make all beings without exception happy, trying to bring some peace and happiness to people's lives, you know, in various ways. What need to mention that? That is just extraordinary, extraordinary state of mind and action. So in other words, of course, this chapter 1 is called the benefits of the awakening mind, right? Shantideva is encouraging us. He's encouraging us to get interested in and to practice this extraordinary state of mind. And then the next verse is really very poignant verse, because it's like, yeah, well, I'll read it and then you'll see why. Although wishing to be rid of misery, beings run towards misery itself. Although wishing to have happiness, like an enemy, they ignorantly destroy it. So this is why we say, you know, if someone from outer space were to come to this earth, I mean, an intelligent life force or something, they would think we are crazy, you know, the way we are destroying ourselves, our planet. You know, they would think that perhaps these people, these earth people, want to be unhappy, you know, because virtually everything they do is just making them more and more unhappy, more and more, you know, frustrated and so forth. So we want happiness, that's clear. If you're not clear about it, think about it. You know, what you want the most is some kind of peace and happiness, right? Everybody wants that. That shouldn't be a surprise to us. And in their own way, mosquitoes, insects also want that. That can be proven by the fact that if you try to catch or kill them, they resist. You know, they don't want to be caught or harmed. So if we want to be happy, why don't we create the causes for happiness? So we don't, because we ignorantly destroy it. Shantideva is saying that due to ignorance, we destroy the causes of happiness, as though the causes of happiness were our enemy, instead of what they should be, which is our best friend. We make them into an enemy. So it comes down to several factors: lack of compassion and love, of course, but primarily also ignorance, not understanding who we are on one level, that's the deepest level, ignorantly holding on to I, me, mine, but on another level also not understanding or not caring about the law of karma, which we spoke about a few sessions ago. Just not caring to understand it, or just thinking it's some medieval crazy belief, you know, which should be outmoded now. Well, if we examine the teachings on cause and effect, actions and their consequences, we'll see how there's tremendous relevance there. And we should take it very, very seriously. What we experience is the result of previous causes and conditions. If we want happiness, we have to create the causes. God or Buddha is not going to give it to us. It's not going to drop out of the sky by chance. So this verse makes somebody like Shantideva weep inside, because he's a great bodhisattva. So it's like a kind mother, who sees a child. Her child wants to be happy, but the child doesn't know how to properly bring about those causes, and is, doing something foolish or fighting with their brother or sister, and just bringing misery all around. So the mother feels very sad, Just as there must be many mothers who see and fathers who see their grown children, adults, in other words, going out and doing all sorts of crazy things and killing people. And I mean, imagine what it's like to be a mother of a person who's gone out and killed people, stabbed people, killed people, shot people. Of course, it's different when someone is working for a government in an army, then maybe the mothers and fathers are proud. But, someone who really thinks about it, they would be sad then also that their son or daughter has to go out and kill people, for a living. Anyway, so it's like that. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they look at us and they feel very sad because we are creating so many causes of misery. So when we want to be happy, it's like a sick person wants to be well, but they keep on taking the wrong food or poison, or the opposite of what the doctors recommended. They keep on taking that kind of food or drink. So ignorantly they are destroying their own happiness, as though their own bodily happiness or well-being were like an enemy. Yeah. So he says, I was saying earlier, we're not going to do verse by verse, but all these verses at the end of chapter 1 are really marvelous. For those who are deprived of happiness, verse 29, for those who are deprived of happiness and burdened with many sorrows, it, meaning Bodhichitta, satisfies them with all joys and dispels all suffering, clears away all confusion. Where is there a comparable virtue? Where is there even such a friend? Where is there merit similar to this? So, we're constantly looking for something that will, like some formula, for cancer or for AIDS or for this or for that or for, you just look at the internet, it's just full of recipes for this and that. But Shantideva is saying, this is the thing that will dispel all suffering from the root, because from the Buddhist perspective, all of our physical problems come from negative karma, primarily, originally. So the antidote to that is this Bodhichitta mind. Actually, if we look at the root causes of suffering, mental and physical suffering, it is unwholesome action of body, speech, and mind coming from beginningless lives. So the antidote to that, what will clear away all of that, is the opposite of that. A mind that only cares to benefit, very kind, loving, flexible mind, together with wisdom, of course. So, this satisfies us. It will satisfy us with all joy, dispel suffering. It will clear away our confusion. Because right now you ask people, you can ask people who, it's not just a question of someone who is old enough to understand your words, but you can ask somebody, isn't it, who's passed their class 10 exam, 12 exam, BA, MA, PhD, they still don't know what to do with their lives. They still don't know how to get rid of their confusion. They can still go into midlife and beyond in a state of total confusion and unhappiness, not knowing what to do with their life, not knowing how to be happy. In fact, engaging in actions which just perpetuate their misery. We all know plenty of people who, are eating and drinking and living in a way that is obviously harming themselves. And we're talking of adults here, not young children. So where is there a comparable virtue to this? Shantideva asks. Could there be such a friend like this? We may feel we have very good friends, and of course we do have very good friends. We depend on friends so much. But how much can a friend help us? How much can a friend actually help us to purify our mind and create very virtuous qualities? Often a friend is someone we are attached to because they can give us some happiness and pleasure, temporary. Of course, there are much deeper friendships, I agree. But even those deeper friendships, how long do they last? One lifetime, maximum? So Bodhichitta is something, this mind of Bodhichitta, that's something that can last. You see, the effects of that can last until Buddhahood, until we ourselves become Buddha, a Buddha. So this mind of Bodhichitta is an extraordinary mind. Much, in a sense, more, well, what shall I say? It has more power than any friendship, ordinary friendship. More power to bestow lasting happiness, freedom, and ultimately Buddhahood. You see, without this mind of great compassion, say we practice the wisdom teachings, which we have to, of course. The wisdom teachings can help us destroy ignorance, okay? This is revision. And they can help us, it's essential to get out of the jail of samsara, wisdom, right? But without the compassion, the bodhicitta, we will not become a Buddha. We will just be free of samsara for ourselves. We will attain nirvana, which is in one way wonderful, you could say. No more suffering ever. But of course, the argument then is that we've done it for how many people? We've done it for one person, oneself. And how many people are there in the universe? Countless. We should say beings, insects, animals, beings from other realms, countless. So with this bodhicitta mind, we are helping countless beings. Then in verse 31, he's saying we praise people who repay kind deeds, But what to mention the bodhisattvas who do good without it being asked of them? That's amazing, no? There are some people who do good without it being asked. Usually we need to be asked, at least I do. And then I do something. But what need to mention these people who have this extraordinary mind of bodhicitta? You don't need to ask them. And they're just constantly working for others. Anonymously, you might say. Hello, Bob. Welcome. Good evening. So, I wonder what Pema Chodron says about this verse. Verse 31. He doesn't actually comment on that. Anyway, let's do verse 32 and 33 and then look at what Pema Chodron says. Verse 32 says, the world considers virtuous somebody who gives a little plain food disrespectfully to a few beings, which satisfies them for only half a day, right? So what need to be said of somebody who eternally bestows the peerless bliss of the Buddhas upon limitless numbers of beings, thereby fulfilling all their hopes, okay? So you understand that now? We would praise somebody who makes offerings of food to people who are hungry. It's a wonderful thing to do, you know. You go from here to, you go north on Aurobindo Marg, you find rows of people receiving food from people who are donated. So that's great, but very often that might be offered to them in a way that is just kind of ritualistic and mechanical, not very respectfully. And people are told to hurry up and, you know, get moving and stuff like that. And one wouldn't even, you know, look at the person that one is giving to. So that is one way. But we would consider something like that good. We would honor people who give food to beggars and so forth. But then what need we say about somebody who, you know, like the Bodhisattvas, is bestowing something on others due to their wisdom and compassion that will help them limitlessly and help them to become Buddhas, thereby fulfilling all the hopes of those beings. You know, we can't get higher than the level of a Buddha, it's said. So the Bodhisattvas help beings to attain that state. Yeah. So what does Pema Chodron say about this? Verse 32 refers to the Indian custom of formalized giving. If once a day, week, or month one gives meals to beggars, one is seen as a virtuous member of society. Thus, Shantideva addresses giving with an agenda. And most of us living in cities with homeless people, we do this. We come up with a plan, like giving to the first person who asks us, in hope of relieving our guilt for the rest of the day. Of course, giving in this way is beneficial, but we could definitely stretch further. When we give money to homeless men and women, we could aspire for them to be free of all their pain. We could aspire to extend our own comfort and happiness to them and to homeless people everywhere. Even more to the point, we could recognize how much we have in common and give freely without resentment or condescension. And even in the very early stages of practicing aspiration bodhicitta, I'll come to that in a minute, we can include all beings. And if bestowing on boundless multitudes the peerless joy of blissful Buddhahood seems a bit beyond us, just keep it real. When we get sick, for example, we don't usually think of the sickness of others. But that shift can happen. When you fall ill, you could think of others in the same boat. Even getting into a soothing bath could bring you out of your cocoon. Countless people don't have such comfort. People who are freezing and longing for warmth, people who are exhausted, have no way to relax. We can aspire for all beings to be free of their suffering and to enjoy the pleasures that we ourselves are enjoying. Yeah. Okay, let's have discussion now. Enough with the pulpit. Okay, hold on. Vedika, already your hand is raised. Hold on. Okay, you are all. Yeah, Vedika.
Hi, Kabir. So I just not in the last session, but in the session previous to that, you had mentioned something. You said that we are all floating and in
We're all
midair,
what?
and we're all floating. We're all floating mid-air, and
midair.
And there is a parachute, but it doesn't really matter because there's no ground below.
Oh
I just
boy,
wanted to understand in details. I mean,
that
what
is a
you
difficult
really
question.
meant.
That was just thrown in as a time pass, I guess, you know. We can explain that. Well, think about it. You have no parachute and you're falling, so that's very bad news, but there's nothing to fall on. So what does that suggest? Has it got anything to do with our fears and our prejudices and our expectations that of what is ahead, our negative projections, lack of freedom? Think about those things. I can't give a definitive answer. I think this is a good thing for people to think about. We always want some ground under our feet, and of course it's very practical, it makes sense. You know, if there's no ground under our feet, then how can we walk? So is it just a kind of poetic thing which is suggesting we all learn to fly? I mean, what is it? Think about it. Let's stick to these verses, please. But yeah, I shouldn't make statements like that, should I? Because it just makes people confused. But no, sometimes it's good to be confused. Actually, it's good to be confused. If we think we know all the answers right now, I don't know if that's very useful. I don't know how much we would benefit by thinking we know everything already. Everything is clear. What do you think? These are not multiple choice questions which will give us 100 out of 100 and our name and photo comes on the front of the Indian Express, you know. This is not what this is about. All those poor students' photos, dummies, you know, it's like one feels they're being zombified. You know? Yeah, a question from in person. Yeah.
Usually, like we are discussing.
You'll have to speak up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I'll also say it for them. Yeah.
So we are speaking about this Bodhichitta, and for that Bodhichitta, the recipe is to be compassionate and to be kind and right, whatever you said, to be self-centered. So coming to self-centered and compassion, everything we bundle it together. Let's suppose we are giving something to beggar, okay, or we are doing something good for other people, okay, or we are donating to other charities and all. So don't you think indirectly what is happening, if you see on the whole perspective, indirectly we are getting satisfied. So the question comes here that we are getting satisfied, me, I am getting satisfied. So circled, if we come, it is coming to self-centered.
What's wrong with, by the way, what's wrong? See, it's this old chestnut, right? That you're helping others, you're actually making yourself happy and you become satisfied. So what's wrong with being happy and satisfied by helping others?
That's right, but everything is coming to only one point, self-centric, right? We are doing for our self-centered, self-satisfaction.
Okay, so you're saying that it is inherently some kind of selfish action.
Yes.
When we benefit others.
Yes.
Right? In any way.
Because we are getting satisfied.
Because you are getting, so you're saying, but you're not saying it's wrong to be satisfied.
Yes.
You're not saying that.
Yeah.
So how can you make yourself satisfied?
That's
in life?
Everything is coming to one point that's self-centered, right?
Ye nahi pooch raha hu. How in life can you make yourself satisfied without being selfish? Or do you have to be selfish to make yourself satisfied? You understand?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying selfish. There are two kind of things, right? Your perception, like what kind of intention you have.
Right? Yehi na hai. It's to do with the intention.
Yes.
Good. So, proceed.
So that's what I mean. Everything is measured by intention only, right? If intention is good.
So good. If intention is good, yeah. Then if you are happy through helping others, but your intention is good, in the sense not just selfish, and as a byproduct you are happy, what's wrong with that? That's wonderful. You want to be unhappy through having a good intention and helping others? You want it to make you unhappy, then you'll feel that you are not a selfish person.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
Feeling good was not question. The question was that self-centric only.
Yes.
People are donating.
Yes,
for
yes.
self-centric
Yes,
only.
yes, yes, yes.
That's what the question.
Yes, yes. Wo to hai. Most of our actions are like that, Shantideva is saying. Most of our actions, 99.9% of our actions are based on wanting something for ourselves. It's very hard to be totally altruistic, just to want to help another person without something in return. So yeah, that's it's true. But he's saying through training, through practice, through constant application of the right aspiration and so forth, it is possible. I would think in the teachings and from my experience, well, not my experience in this life, I haven't been a mother in this life, but it seems that sometimes the mother's love can be unconditional. Sometimes, of course, a lot of child psychologists and all these biologists will say that a mother gets a tremendous satisfaction from the vocal and facial feedback of a young child, of an infant, right? When the mother is being kind to the very young child, the child is, making nice sounds and smiling, and that makes the mother happy, And if the child were unresponsive for some reason and didn't smile back or make nice sounds, then it would be very difficult for the mother. The mother would be upset and would not be motivated to help the child. So there, that could also happen for people. But there would also be mothers, for example, who bring up emotionally disturbed or in some way, what's the proper politically correct term now? Other abled. Other abled? Huh? Differently abled, thank you. Differently abled. Yeah, there are differently abled children, spastics or Down syndrome or whatever. But the mother may, in many cases, feel even more kindness and compassion for that child, and bring them up with tremendous kindness. So, point is, we can have very, very pure intention. It is possible to generate. But then we also have to do this work, I think, about which involves getting rid of, again, this is just language, reducing the sense always of I, me, mine, which is very strong. The self-consciousness. Awareness we need, but the self-consciousness, we're always involved with an identity. Young, old, thin, fat, man, woman, rich, poor, whatever it is, we're constantly dragged down by our sense of who we are. Whereas Buddhism might say that essentially we are pure awareness. We are awareness. We are attentiveness, potentially. But we have all these other things we burden ourselves with. So we have to work with that. Yeah. But yeah, good question. But I'm glad you made the point about intention. That seems to be key. Totally key. Because one can see it with maybe, I don't know, big business houses or business people competing with each other to show how much they, are engaging in charity work or whatever and helping others, and they advertise it. And then you have big companies who are totally hypocritical, which are pretending to be green in their policies and helping the environment, when actually, when one investigates, they are destroying the environment. So it's all to do with intention, isn't it? One has to look at the intention. But of course, unless we are mind readers, we don't really know another person's intentions, at least not initially. But yeah, if we can purify our intentions and constantly remember the kindness of others and the suffering of others, like a mother would see the suffering of her child who is sick. When we think about people who have helped us tremendously in this life, we naturally feel some gratitude and wish to help them, which can be quite a pure attitude. We don't want to help them because we want anything back for ourselves. We want to help them actually because they have helped us. So we really want to also make them happy. You know? Any Menotti
Kabir
ji?
ji,
Haan ji. That sounds like Pradeep ji.
is it possible to achieve nirvana without compassion, or reverse way? Can you do people who achieve nirvana have no compassion for?
No, that's obviously not the case. They have some compassion, obviously, because when one practices moral conduct, concentration, and wisdom, which is what they have to, naturally there's going to be some high degree of love and compassion compared to what we have right now, because of the state of mind they are engendering, a very equanimous state of mind, a very calm and peaceful state of mind without fear and expectation. So naturally, there's much more room in their mind for love and compassion, obviously.
So what makes them stop there then? If they have that compassion, what makes them not extend it to awakening to Buddhahood?
Yeah, I put it another way. They have not yet, it's like they're in the jail. They are very kind and compassionate to everyone in the jail. You know, they look kindly on their fellow inmates and even on the warders. And they even maybe are kind and all to people who are mistreating them in the jail. But they really want to get out of the jail themselves. They don't even feel they have the ability to help others get out of the jail. So there is that sense, I think, that the Bodhisattva path is a very, very exclusive one, and that Bodhisattvas are something mentioned. I mean, don't forget that a lot of the Theravada practitioners don't feel even that Mahayana is authentic teaching of the Buddha, you know, unfortunately. Many, I mean, let alone Vajrayana, but Mahayana, some I think that's a later thing that came afterwards. It's not the original teaching of the Buddha. So some people might even dismiss it as impossible or just like a fairy tale. But the main point is that there is a tremendous difference between ordinary love and compassion, or even love and compassion of a person aiming for nirvana, and the compassion involved with bodhicitta, which, as you know, is the aspiration to attain Buddhahood oneself in order to liberate all sentient beings. Now, most people who are practicing, people are practicing the Theravada path towards nirvana, they're not aiming for Buddhahood. They don't feel it's possible. They feel it's beyond them, even if it were possible, you know. So it is a little bit, well, this again, Mahayana propaganda, you might say. It's almost as though it's beyond the, I don't know, mental horizon of many people to think in that way. And when we probably begin to approach Bodhisattva teaching seriously, we see how difficult it is. Right now, we can't think beyond our own problems or our own family's problems. So achieving this just aspirational bodhicitta, let alone the putting it into action, but just having the pure aspiration bodhicitta is like extraordinary. That's what Shantideva was saying. It's an extraordinary thing. It's like a miracle. It's very hard to generate. It's not impossible, but it's very hard. And if we think it's not hard, then, you know, just try and generate strong compassion for, you know, people outside your family circle, outside people who are obviously starving and unhappy and helpless. You might see images of young children starving in certain parts of the world. And of course, that engenders a certain amount of compassion. But you feel the same compassion towards towards murderers and people who are cutting down the Amazon and so forth, because a bodhisattva feels compassion for everybody, sees the suffering of everybody, and wishes to lead everybody to Buddhahood. So obviously it's not easy, right? We feel tremendous aversion towards people who are behaving badly and exploiting others and despoiling the planet, etc., etc. Can we generate a mind that is willing to embrace all of them, take all of them to enlightenment? That's not easy, is it? So there's a tremendous difference in the, I would say in short, in the intensity and the scope of the compassion on the Mahayana path. It really does embrace everyone, everybody, every being in the universe. Whereas the path of Nirvana, you're basically working with one person. So there's a tremendous difference. Of course, while you're alive, you help others, you work with others, you teach others, whatever you do. If you're that kind of practitioner, some practitioners are just practicing on their own most of their lives, in forests or wherever. And that's very wonderful, but you know, when you compare it with what the bodhisattvas are doing, it's kind of big difference. What do you think?
Yes, I know it's a wonderful aspiration, but at the same time, as you are also saying, and everyone says, it's looks almost an impossible aspiration.
That's because we haven't done the practice. Yeah, we haven't done Bodhichitta retreats with Keshe Damdul or whatever. There are many things we could begin to do which would inspire us and make us feel that it's possible, or at least worthy of attempting. And of course, I want to say again, the Theravada practitioner, of course, has loving kindness and compassion. Metta, as you know, is very, very emphasized. And so is compassion, but there's different degrees of it. One doesn't want to use military analogies, but there's a difference between an ordinary bomb, and an atomic bomb or a hydrogen bomb, in their capacity to destroy. So there's a big difference in the capacity of the beginner, the Theravada love and compassion to destroy delusion and achieve the welfare of others. There's a big difference between that and the Mahayana love and compassion, which embraces all sentient beings. I mean, why did Buddha teach both these paths? Why didn't he just teach Nirvana or just teach Mahayana? It's obvious, because different people need different teachings. We can't just jump. Of course, we have to go through the basic path before we can really get to the Mahayana path. But he taught both, obviously, so that at least liberation would be happening for somebody. Am I missing hands or in person?
Thank you, Kabirji.
Thank you. Thanks, Pradeepji. Bob, any question? Bob is here, by the way. Huh? What? Yeah, you're a naughty fellow.
Say my hello to Bob.
Pradeepji says hello. Who's that? Pradeepji says Bob. Can you see Bob, Pradeepji? Pradeep. You don't know Pradeep?
Magazine.
Pradeep Magazine?
Hi.
He sits there usually when he comes. नहीं देखे?
Namaste.
देखा?
देख लिया.
Yeah. Okay. What next? 7:38. Is that Ashwin?
Ashwin, yeah.
Boliye.
So in verse 28, it says that even though we really want happiness, we sort of run towards suffering. So I was just
No, verse 28, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just wondering that even when we have this altruistic intention to benefit others, we may think that our actions are benefiting them, but we might actually be causing them more suffering.
Why is
So how
that?
to cultivate, because we're still like caught up in delusion and we don't have the wisdom to know what is actually of benefit.
Right.
So
Yeah,
how to
yeah, you're
cultivate,
absolutely right. So how to cultivate what?
how to cultivate that wisdom to know that what we are doing is actually of benefit and not causing harm.
Good question. Often we don't, because we don't have enough wisdom. But if we check the teachings on karma and how karma is basically intention, then we get a good idea of what our actions are going to, what result they're going to have. Although we can't predict because we don't have, most of us don't have clairvoyance, and we don't, we just don't have enough idea. We may be thinking we're going to be helping somebody, but often it backfires, doesn't it? Because of just lack of wisdom or from some selfishness from our side, which has crept in, which we weren't aware of, you know? So then it backfires. So the answer always seems to be more study, more reflection, more meditation, more purification. It's like if our windscreen is dirty, our car windscreen or even our home window is dirty and we're complaining about not being able to see what's outside clearly, then it's obvious what we have to do. We have to clean the windows. You know, it's like we have to cleanse our perceptions, our mind. Because our mind is clogged up. Mine is anyway, with a lot of preconceptions, memories, images, desires, aversions, you name it. And I would guess most people have this as well. Hopes, expectations, fears, doubts. You know, the mind is cluttered, right? It's totally cluttered. It's like having a room full of garbage and you're saying, where's the space gone? You know, I can't see anything. I can't see the person the other side of the room. Yeah, because all the garbage in between. And then, I mean, just take our connection with other people. Yeah. It's based largely on our previous experience with that person, right? The image we have of that person, which like comes to represent the person. So how often are we dealing with a living moment by moment person in front of us? I'm wondering. And how much are we dealing with an image and then we react to the image and our own reaction, our past reactions to that image. So we're caught up in knots, you know, and in, of course, in hopes and fears and expectations surrounding that person, group of people. And that's happening all the time, isn't it? Or is it just happening to me? Am I the only crazy person here? Everyone else is enlightened? Maybe, I don't know. The teachings say you should regard everyone as bodhisattvas. So probably all of you are bodhisattvas and I'm the only one not. Yeah, your left hand is up, Elaine, or is it your right hand? I can't tell.
It's my left hand, Kabirji, because I'm a lefty.
Okay. Take her. But
yeah, I wanted to say something about Ashwin's question.
Please,
what Ashaji usually teaches, whenever we ask, what is a practical way? How do we know we should help or not help? And she tells us, that you can have short-term good and long-term good. If that is the case, go ahead, according to your own judgment, as much as you can judge. If it's short-term harm and long-term good, go ahead. If it's short-term good and long-term harm, don't do it. And if it's harm both ways, don't do it. So I think one can sit and kind of judge. If it's an immediate thing you want to help with,
How can one tell that a short-term harm may lead to a long-term good? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's like you stop a child from eating too much sweet, it's a short-term great thing, but I mean, you're going to get peace for short-term because the child is going to stop the tantrums, but you know, in the long term, it's not a good thing. So you kind of put your foot down. Things, meaning small things I'm talking about, not very large decisions, but just immediate things where you want to help or not help.
Right. Yeah, I mean, often we just have to take a risk and think what we feel is the best thing to do. And because otherwise the alternative is we become so passive, we decide, well, I can't help anyone at all, you know, because I don't have great wisdom or compassion or clairvoyance yet. So then that would become an excuse, or could become an excuse not to do anything much for others, because we would always fear making mistakes, you know. And I think that happens a lot. People are afraid to actually engage because of, you know, fear of repercussions or whatever, consequences. And the worst aspect, I mean, one of the manifestations of that is, you know, the instances there have been of people being injured and so forth, and there's a crowd of people taking videos of the person, but hardly anyone willing to help, you know. We've become spectators, partly due to our technologies, and not enough helping others. What do you think?
I think, Kabirji, that's why it may be or is important to have this compassion and reaction which is spontaneous, which is not to reach a stage where you do it because, not because you think it's good or bad, because you think it has to be done.
It happens automatically, just through some kind of intuitive wisdom, I think, sometimes, isn't it? Sometimes there's an inner knowing, or what some teachers call the first thought. First thought, best thought. But then we clutter, after the first thought, we have second thoughts, you know, and third thoughts. And by the time the second, third, fourth thought, we've gone astray, you know. Then we built up a whole defense mechanism which confuses us, and we don't do anything. Yeah, have you had that experience?
Yeah, like you feel like then you think of consequences, what will happen if I do this, and how will that person react, or what are the consequences? It could be bad, and then you stop yourself from acting.
Right.
But it's very difficult to achieve that stage of spontaneity, you know.
Why? You've played cricket. You've what?
I mean, that, yes, there, but here in terms of
you've seen great cricket. Great cricket. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, you were saying something. Yes.
No, you were talking and I interrupted. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was saying that training yourself to become a better athlete or a better sportsman or a better engineer or a scientist or a writer is different from training yourself to become spontaneously compassionate person without thinking of any consequences of your action.
What about sports people who are in the zone? When they speak about a sports person in the zone, aren't they being spontaneous and brilliant?
To be in the zone as a compassionate person would probably require far more training than
maybe not. Maybe we're underestimating ourselves based on our past performance, which we are clinging to as me, my identity. Maybe we are underestimating our potential and our capacity for extraordinary action. Who knows?
Yes, maybe we are. Yes, I agree.
Why do we think we have to be just ordinary all the time? We can be extraordinary, which has been proven in certain cases. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things when it was necessary, you know, to help somebody or sacrifice their own safety to help someone. This happens a lot. So, you know, I think we shouldn't underestimate our capacity, because we all have Buddha nature, right? So if we all have Buddha nature, what keeps us from manifesting it is all this mental garbage. But sometimes we can cut through that garbage through letting go, even for a split second, this vast accretion of habit and false identity we built up, you know, based on what we think we are. Oh, I'm someone who is a little bit, you know, I'm an introvert, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a bit fearful, I don't do things like that, you know, all of that stuff. But sometimes just we can cut through that without taking drugs and stuff. No? Yeah. Or having our favorite music playing, which are also probably, you know, possible methods, but
Kabirji,
yeah. Yeah. Vedika
may I
just
add,
sorry, who's adding? Who is adding? Hello.
Jagmohanji was asking.
just Jagmohan.
Oh, Jagmohanji,
I
boliye.
wanted to add that
Yes.
that because of our Buddha nature, our instinctive response because of compassion is to help the other person. But
Yes.
why sometimes it does happen that we are not in a position to help.
Right.
So one has to know whether we can help or not. We may say a few words which may be of help or which to some extent they do help, but we should not hesitate in asking somebody else to help that person.
Yeah, whatever we can do.
I
And
mean, if
sometimes
you
we
can't
do
help
anything.
someone, you are not in a position to help. There
Right.
should not be any hesitation in requesting somebody else to help you, or help him directly.
So much, yeah. And sometimes we can't do that either. There's
I
no
don't know
one
if
around
I've
to
been
help.
able to express myself.
Yes, you have. Sometimes there's nobody, Jagmohanji, who can
Hello?
be there to be asked to help. So we have to do it ourselves. And if we can't do it, then we have to aspire to be able to help in the future. That's why aspiration is considered so important. Sometimes we can't do anything. We can't help someone sometimes who is, maybe part of our work is to go and visit people who are dying or this or that. And we know we can't help sometimes somebody the way we would like to, but we can aspire to be able to help others as much as possible. So that creates a very powerful mental energy in the mind, which is positive. We can't help everybody. We can't even help ourselves sometimes in any kind of deep way, but we can aspire to. So that is considered very, very, very powerful and necessary. And most of the time we have to do that, aspire, because if you make a list of all the things that you would like to set right in the world, how many of them could you actually achieve? Can you, replant the Amazon jungle? Can you feed and help all the starving millions in North Africa and in other parts of the world? Can we do this? Can we do that? Can you even help your mother, father, your mother-in-law? Can you reduce your anger towards your mother-in-law? Many of these things are very difficult right now, right? But we can aspire to be able to do more, isn't it? Before I take the participants who've raised their hands, Anushri has given something which Hindu tradition, there are three guru, sattvic, rajas and tamasic qualities, and these mental states are characterized by different qualities. Yeah, sattvic person is kind, calm, unlike tamasic person whose very livelihood might just depend on killing other creatures. So they say that if you donate money to a tamasic beggar who, let's say, takes drugs, you'll get a tamasic result. So is there no such concept in Buddhism that if you don't know that person is tamasic and you're giving money to them, your intention is still pure. If it's a pure intention, you will get a good result. Of course, if you have good information that the person you're giving something to is misusing it in some way, then you might decide not to give or to try and explain to them. So I haven't heard a Buddhist concept that if you, that if you give to a tamasic person, you will get a tamasic result yourself. That I haven't heard, no. Okay, so hands up, Nitya and Vedika. Who was first? Vedika? Were you first? Vedika, yeah.
So, like when we were talking about helping others, what I've noticed based on my experience with my loved ones, like, my husband and my family members, is that I think that I'm trying to help them, but they are not willing to receive that help, or they're not ready to kind of take that help. Sometimes that happens. Like, for example, if I think that this person should start working out because they really need it for their better health and so on, and I kind of try to make it possible for them, like I make some classes possible or get a teacher or something. But if the person himself or herself is not willing to do it or receive that, then it kind of becomes very difficult. In such a situation, then compassion also mean understanding that that person is probably not in a situation right now to do or take that help, or receive it, or kind of do something that might be good for them, but they're not able to do it.
Did people hear that? What do you think? I'll ask the floor here, the in-persons. How would you reply?
Expectation.
Kabir ji, may I?
Let's ask the Tushita Walas here first. We've come all the way to Tushita to, let's give them a chance. And then afterwards we'll have you, Pradeep ji. Prajnanya.
Yeah, I believe the problem with expectation, we're expecting more, that he should understand according to my way.
It's a question of expectation, Prajnanya thinks, that you're expecting someone to understand something. You want them to understand something which maybe they're not ready yet to understand. So, and you probably know the answer to this yourself. We have to be skillful, right? Some people exhaust themselves trying to change the world. And the very famous, one of the most famous verses in Shantideva is about just that, where he says that, where could you possibly find enough leather to cover the whole world? You can't. You just put shoes on your own feet and that does the job. So it's like, we have to take care of our own mind, our own aspirations, generate positive aspiration, and realize we can't do what we really want to do for others a lot of the time, maybe most of the time. As I said, if we make a list of the people we'd like to help in this world, I mean, how much can we achieve on that list? It's pitiful, but we can aspire to be of more and more and more benefit to others, life to life. And then due to the mental power of that aspiration, that can come to be. हाँ, प्रदीप जी, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे थे?
No, I'm just adding to what you're saying. I think it's also important, especially with people you understand and know, you're close to, that we all come from causes and conditions. Our actions are result of the causes and conditions we are born in. It's important to first understand those causes and conditions, which may not be easy. But unless you understand those causes and conditions, only then can you be very skillful in trying to solve that problem, because you know from where they come from. Why are they doing this? Your empathy comes from understanding what you think is a wrong action, the reasons behind that wrong action, rather than your empathy won't come from trying to correct a person without understanding that person is actually just like you. But because of certain causes and conditions, he or she thinks that what they are doing is right, which may not be right. So it's very important to understand those causes and conditions, for which we have to actually decondition ourselves first. I think unless we understand our own causes and conditions, we won't be able to understand the causes and conditions, what led to those actions of other people.
Absolutely, yeah, I would agree with that completely. And the thing there also is, if we take past lives into consideration, as Buddha said we should, then we can't understand many things about ourselves, our fears, our expectations, our desires. A lot of them we won't understand because we don't know what causes really we created in the past lives, I mean, which are making us behave and think and talk in this way. Often, I mean, we just think, okay, this is how I am, but we don't know what the deeper cause is. You know, why are we so, you know, let's say, why do we have a certain kind of habit, which is either a good habit or maybe a bad habit? Why? When we are not taught it, for example, when we were young or at school, why do we have certain habits, certain fears, certain strengths, certain weaknesses, which were not taught to us? So Buddha would say, yeah, we have to look at past lives. Why is someone unable to receive your good advice or your loving kindness? You know, it's not just about this life very often, it's about past life experience, you know, which is why a person can be this way or that way, or why we are receiving harm from a certain person or help. Sometimes people help us a lot and we're kind of thinking, why are they helping me so much? I haven't done anything for them. Why are they so helpful to me? And often it's past life causes. So if we can get our head around what you're saying, causes and conditions, not just this life, yeah, then we have much more understanding of people. Yeah, and also things we don't understand, we can accept and say, look, this is something deep I don't understand, but it must have a cause, you know? So I'm not therefore taking something personally, you know what I mean? If somebody is misbehaving or doing something you don't like, we can say, okay, this is not a personal, you know, conspiracy against me. This is due to past causes, conditions. And again, Shantideva is very eloquent on this in some of the future chapters. But, and the French have this expression that to understand is to forgive. It's a beautiful expression. Comprendre, c'est pardonner, you know. If you understand, then you can forgive. But if we don't understand, then I guess we just blame. And we just blame people for, you know, this or that. Or blame life, blame the environment. Good, thank you. Nitya? Nitya?
Yeah, hi. So I have two questions around what we spoke about today. One is about the power of aspiration. And I'm not sure if when we can't help someone, if we aspire to help them or hold good intention to help them, sure, it's a good way for us to be personally, but is it sort of like is it sort of just like a placebo for our minds? Like what, or does it actually have does it actually change our way of thinking in terms of neurons and neural pathways and so on? Or does it also like subconsciously like condition us to be more positive in our thinking and hoping for others? Like what is the power of positive thinking or for others or positive aspirations?
Both those things you mentioned, both. It affects your neuronal pathways as well as the other thing you mentioned, acting on our subconscious, and it's just creating positive, you know, thought patterns in the mind. I mean, we can easily experiment with this. You know, spend a lot of your time having negative thoughts or jealous thoughts. See how it affects your mind and your behavior. Or spend time having positive thoughts, positive aspirations. How does it affect our mind? I think that's not very difficult.
Okay.
Very clear.
And the second question was about causality and karma and past lives, and why has this tradition of Buddhism, why does it place so much emphasis on the why does it attribute the inexplicable to the past so much? Like, has anyone gone there and been able to like say that, like this is, you know, this has been proven like through reason?
You can't prove it through scientific instruments because that's not Buddhist fault. That's the lack of finesse of scientific instruments. but there are countless beings of the Theravada path and Mahayana path who can remember their past lives. And the Buddha remembered countless of his past lives when he attained enlightenment. That's why he spoke about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taught it. If he hadn't experienced it himself, he wouldn't have taught it. So yes, absolutely.
But how do we know he
Huh?
experienced it?
What?
How do we know that he
We don't know.
experienced
We
it?
don't know because we don't have the mental capacity and we don't have the scientific instruments. We just have to be humble enough to realize there are things we don't understand because we don't have the mental capacity right now. But were we to engage in deep levels of meditation and attain even the all the 9 levels of shamatha and go into what are called the access states, the dhyanas, and those levels of mind, then we would start remembering past lives, it is said. But how many of us have the time or the energy or the aspiration to achieve fully accomplished shamatha? You know, it takes 6 to 9 months of intensive practice. And for those people who are ready for it and who aren't going to be bothered by distractions, who can take 6 to 9 months off their jobs and their ordinary life, who have received the proper teachings and who have the right circumstances and all of the other guidelines that are given in the teachings on shamatha, and then we can begin to really understand. It's like saying, you know, why can't I run 100 meters in 10 seconds? Or 11 seconds. Well, because I haven't trained, you know. Train your body and with all the right conditions, you might be able to do it. Or you might not be able to in this life. But if we were to attain samatha and slightly beyond, it is said then we have access to past lives. And you can say, well, maybe. Yeah, that's obvious. We'll have to say, well, maybe, if we don't yet have enough trust and devotion and conviction in the Buddhist teachings. That's what we will say right now. And that's totally understandable. And it's not something I would, you know, that's not something one would say is good or bad. It's just the way it is, right? But the more we practice what Buddha taught in terms of mental training, we will see how extraordinary this mind is, beyond belief, the power of this mind, and we'll go beyond the materialistic straitjacket that we've been placed in by science, by ordinary modern science, not the open-minded scientists who are willing to accept that their scientific instruments are not enough to measure everything. But of course, the narrow-minded materialistic scientists, which is most people, will not accept this. And of course, they will not accept that the mind can be trained to a position where it can achieve these extraordinary realizations, you know. So it's like saying, well, I'm not even willing to, you know, train my mind in a way that is said will bring me these results. So if you're not prepared to do the training, well, you just have to stay with your limited resources. And but then don't complain that, you know, what Buddhists are saying is wrong. You haven't checked it. You see what I mean? If we go through the training and properly and still don't experience anything, then we can say this is all nonsense. But if we go through the training properly under the qualified master and achieve these states, then seeing past lives is just looking at the palm of the hand. That's the power of the mind. And it shows the power of our materialistic conditioning that we have in this world, that we don't accept anything we can't see with our 5 senses. And in one way, that's understandable, but it's very limited. So therefore, we poo-poo people who think they see ghosts or other beings, whereas this is just something quite ordinary for people who have clairvoyance. They see all manner of beings that we can't see. And that's why they have more compassion, because they see how much these other beings are suffering.
Then why is the
Yeah.
Right. Then why is the concept of God so why does the concept of God not really have a place in this tradition? From what I understand.
What we said, how is it linked to God? What we've just been talking about, is it linked to belief in God?
It is linked to what we can experience through our senses. So I'm just trying to tie it in. Like, if you are able to reach higher states of go to past lives through higher states of meditation, then have these same states of meditation not been able to reveal a higher power?
The higher power is in our minds. The cause of the universe is consciousness and karma. That in Buddhism is the creator. Mind and karma, karmic seeds, karmic propensities. Those are in short, in brief, from what I understand, that is the creation. That is what creates universes and the ends of universes. And of course, consciousness is beginningless and endless. So consciousness is going to some kind of seed form, obviously, at the end of a universe or whatever. But then everything is a creation of some aspect of consciousness and karma. So there's no need for God. God is irrelevant in the system. And, to put it bluntly, God is a projection of people's minds, according to many, not just Buddhists, but a lot of Western thinkers who are atheists. They see God as a kind of infantile projection of infantile minds who still need a big mummy daddy to look after them when they should be, just working with their own consciousness. Sorry to put it so bluntly, but you might as well hear it because you'll hear it somewhere from somebody. But there are gods in Buddhism, but they're also samsaric gods. They're not free. They just have certain powers which can be gained through meditation. That's what they have. And if you look at the gods in all the traditions, they don't behave in a very enlightened way, to be honest. They're jealous, they're greedy, they're warlike, they're lustful, they compete with one another, they harm human beings. So what kind of God is that? I mean, what kind of way of life is that to emulate? So Buddhist practitioners don't pray to be reborn as gods, however much power they may have or long lives with meditative bliss, because they know that those long lives will come to an end because those gods haven't generated wisdom and compassion. They just created the causes for certain meditative states. Anyway, I've gone off track, sorry, and I hope I haven't upset anyone too much. But the Dalai Lama says, if you believe in God and it helps you be a better human being, then wonderful. But then don't expect Buddhists to share your belief in God. We can still have interfaith harmony, but we don't have to believe in everything that the other religion believes. We should practice well our own religion, especially in terms of behavior. But the view, well, that's people's personal business, if you like. Whether you believe in God is in one way irrelevant to me. But if you behave as a good human being, then that becomes very relevant to me because it will affect me directly. But anyway, we need to investigate these things more. And as I was saying, until we achieve high states of meditative absorption, then we cannot judge and say that there are no past lives, no future lives. We haven't got the equipment to check yet. It's like saying there isn't a certain star or a certain universe, when we didn't have the telescopes able to see them. Now we can see them because you have a powerful enough telescope, incredible telescopes, right? Which are seeing unimaginable stars, of course, as they were before, because the light has taken millions of light years to get here. So like that, we need to develop the inner equipment to see clearly. And Buddha said, we can. And that's just a byproduct. Yeah, thanks. Again, I hope I didn't offend you or anybody with my answer.
No,
the Dalai Lama says at the ends of teachings, if anything I said is beneficial, very good. If anything I said is irrelevant or upset you, just forget it. Let it go. Don't hold on to it. Hi, Elaine. Yeah. This is overtime now, I get paid extra.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to say it's very interesting to in with Nitya's questions. It's really interesting to study logic of this past life and why there's no God and there's, a mind is never ending. All these things in a shastra called Pramanavartika. And we study it in the masters, and you will get wonderful debates, absolutely wonderful logic that, they are and proving these things up to a point. But also there are a whole lot of Indian mind traditions. There's half of them who believe in God, which came later, but a whole lot of Indian mind traditions that do not believe in God, besides the Buddhists.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
Thanks,
all I
Elaine.
wanted to add. Yeah.
So when is the last day for registration for the next master's course at Tibet House?
It's open. It's open right till the end of October.
Seriously, Nitya, you should enroll for the master's course at Tibet
It's
House.
really interesting, very, very interesting. Pramanavartika. And then, as you said, the siddhas that you attain in higher states is in Abhisamaya Lankara. You will know exactly at which stage you will attain what clairvoyance. It's amazing. It's there. It's just that, we need to study it. Super.
Right.
So take it or leave it. Huh?
Can anyone register for it, or do you have to do a bachelor's before that?
No, you can register for it. You can do a short course like the preliminary diploma course. And that is anyway 1 year of that. So you can register for just the Nalanda diploma course, which will give you a lot of knowledge as it is. And then if you feel like, you can go further. Quite good.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Thanks, Elaine. I'll check it out.
I think, Elaine, it's you have to do diploma first to. So you do diploma first, diploma course, which I think
Yes.
the registration is open for that also.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Apparently, according to Nivita here, you can also do the certificate course only as a preliminary.
That
and
just finished, Kabirji.
2 months. That's 2 months, and
That
it just
just
finished.
finished.
It just finished. It's not happening
But
again.
it will come again, and it's only 2 months. Quick course.
Okay, you be in touch with us. We'll let you know. The other thing you can do up before then is to look at some of the books of Alan Wallace. They can be very useful on shamatha, and we can give you a list of books of Alan Wallace. I'll maybe post them on the WhatsApp group, because there are some excellent books which he has also written, which investigate this topic of mind and inner exploration, etc. He's done a lot of work, study, and so forth, comparing science and spirituality, science and Buddhism, and attended a lot of the Mind Life conferences where the Dalai Lamaji has interacted with scientists over the last 30 years. So Alan Wallace has written some very good things, and he studied both science and done a lot of shamatha meditation and so forth. So he's a good one of the best Western scholars, I think, to read on these topics. Yeah.
Great, that would be helpful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nitya. Anybody else before we finish? We're doing it on Saturday now? Are we? It was supposed to be on Sunday?
No, instead of our regular Sunday session, Saturday.
Oh, we're not doing a Sunday session this week?
You said not to do Saturday.
So we're doing Medicine Buddha on Saturday.
11.
Okay, we are doing Medicine Buddha Puja in person here and online, 11 a.m. on Saturday, okay? And no session on Sunday, is that right? No session on Sunday. Okay.
That's what you had suggested. You had suggested that.
I had suggested that, and somehow, due to neuronal deficiency, I forgot. And Nivita reminded me, because she probably has a younger brain. Okay, so thank you for that.
You can use Sunday if you're up for it.
Sunday might be a bit too much as well. Okay, but Saturday, 11 a.m. Good, I'll put it in my diary. Those who want to come here to Tushita, you're welcome. Otherwise, online. Yeah. Okay, I think we stop. I have a guest at home who's come from Mumbai, and he'll be getting hungry. He started the Dharma Rain group in Mumbai many years ago. Aspi Mistry, some of you may know him or have heard of him. Aspi, you know Elaine very well. Aspi.
Please say hello to him. Yes, absolutely.
I will do that. I will do that. Okay, so everybody, thanks for your questions and your contribution.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody here at Tushita.
Thank you.
4 people in the audience. So we'll dedicate now briefly for the happiness and welfare of all beings, as much as we can in a heartfelt way. Beings who are really miserable, aren't they? So many beings are so miserable for countless reasons. So may they find happiness, may oneself aspire to help many and also be able to help more and more people due to self-confidence, courage, circumstances ripening for us to be able to benefit others. May we never be separated from authentic teachings, teachers, life to life. May we develop more and more conviction in the law of cause and effect, even to the extent of being able to see past and future lives, so that this may convince us of really widen the scope of the spiritual path, which otherwise would just be confined to one life. So may that, in a sense, really open our minds to a bigger picture, if you like, and therefore responsibility for the happiness of this consciousness beyond just this life. Yeah. May all of our kind teachers have long and healthy lives. May all their wishes be fulfilled. All their Dharma wishes for us be fulfilled. May those who help spread the teachings and make the facilities available for people to experience the teachings have long and healthy lives and be able to practice, study, reflect, meditate and practice as much as possible. May all the wars and all the difficulties in the world be lessened. The war finish quickly in Ukraine. May arms manufacturers and others be tired of making money in that way. May we, as a species, become more ecologically responsible. May we put more money and effort in education, educating young minds rather than polluting them with garbage. Okay, thank you everybody very much. See some of you on Saturday morning then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Javanji.
Kabirji. Good night.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.